I have the pleasure of being joined by the victorious Nukeduck after a pretty commanding win over Rakan. Now, it was kind of a rough day starting out for Sjokz. Brought in substitutes, you got Vander playing AD carry, you have one of your coaches, Boris, playing support. Tell me, how does it feel to win when the odds seem so stacked against you?
I wouldn't say the odds were that stacked against us. I think Boris is actually not a bad bot laner, and Vander's ADC was actually pretty impressive. And so yeah, I mean, it was just, we were just having fun, but I didn't feel like the odds were stacked against us.
All right, it's good to hear. I like that positivity. But tell me, what is it like playing with your coach on the roster in picks and bans? Are you nervous? Are you worried that he's gonna like say, "Hey, you messed that up in scrims"? Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, it was not like this. It was more like the other way around, you know, because he's obviously not a player, you know. So he's more like, he just doesn't want to like int, you know. He just want to play okay. He's not going to be the one like yelling at other people, you know. He's going to try to just like be a role player, but he was definitely like reminding us like what we want to do, like what's next, you know, like coach stuff, you know, like buy pink wards.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to get off the roster changes. I want to talk a little bit about you. Now, you kind of struggled last year on Vitality. A lot of people were saying you're underrated, but you absolutely dominated this last game. Is this what we can expect from you in every game moving forward?
Not to this extent, but I think I will put up a good show, yeah. I think so.
All right. Last question. There's been a lot of years in the LCS. Is this the year of Nukeduck? Is this the year where you finally make it clear that you're a top mid laner in Europe?
Yes.
Absolutely. Quack, quack. All right. Back to you at the Analyst desk, Sjokz.
Quack, quack. Back to you, Drakos. Fantastic. And, you know, loving the confidence that comes out of Nukeduck. As he says, maybe it wasn't that big of a hurdle, but you have to put some points in their basket for having such resilience. You know, this is the first game that Sjokz played, and they absolutely crushed it.
It was a great game to watch. We were all enjoying it, the back and forth. I think the Rocket put up good fights here and there, but the fact that Sjokz were able to come together after an emergency sub, very impressive to watch.
Very impressive indeed. For now, though, we're going to zoom in on our next game, and that is Fnatic and Splice. Also a very exciting matchup, and I want to start with Splyce, who aim to turn things around this season with 4 new players. This team looks like it's built to win straight from the start. Definitely, if you read down the lineup, Odoamne, Xerxe, Nisqy, Kobbe, kaSing. It looks like a team that could pick up some early wins, but what do you think to the longevity of this team? Amazing.
I actually think they're more built for playoffs than anything. I think the whole team itself, like, they have Odoamne, who's like a really good tank player, and he's a really good team player. They have kaSing, who went to Worlds in Season 5, and Kobbe, who's always been solid. Like, their overall team atmosphere, at least from what I can tell and from what I can see from the players, is just that they want to do well later on in the season and don't really care as much about the early part of the season, and just try to get Nisqy and Xerxe into system players and make them basically just players that can play for other players instead of just playing for themselves and playing for the solo carry role that they had in the previous team. So I really expect them to be coming up for players.
For me, I kind of think the opposite. When I look at this roster, I think that right off the gate, just because it's full of veteran talent, I'm expecting them to rack up a lot of wins very early on, as a lot of the other teams are meshing together. Whereas I think that later on into the split, there's potential for them to become a top team, but I don't know how much more growth this team can make from what it will currently be in its current state, because I do know that you have a lot of veteran talent, and it's about how much they're willing to learn and grow from this point on.
Yeah, those 2 possible ways it can play out. However, they do have that man behind them, Peter Dunn, a very successful coach in his own right. Brazil CBLOL, 2 titles, went to Worlds, coached in China for a long time, and it seems like that's a good guy to bring that type of players together, but we will only see when they have a couple of games under their belt. And the first game they have to play is a very tough one. It's up against Fnatic, and whilst Splyce made 4 changes on the Rift, Fnatic, they only made 1 going into the new season. The former champions, they failed to take the trophy in 2017, but now they're set to compete their way back to former glory. And we have to think that after what happened last year, they must be strengthened. I also think possibly we shouldn't make as many excuses for some of the players, right? Players like Caps, players like Broxah, this is where they have to deliver.
Exactly that. This team went 11-2 during the regular season of the summer split. They went to Worlds, started 0-4. They made world history by being the first team to get out of groups after an incredibly bad Week 1 performance. And you think that these rookies that started at the beginning of the set 2017 should now be experienced. They've gone through the worst of the worst. They've gained a lot of valuable knowledge, and given that the majority of the roster stays together, I'm expecting good things.
So it would be easy to say, well, they only changed 1 player. That's Hylissang. for Jesses. So, you know, on paper, they should be the best going into this split. But amazing, that could not be that easy for them.
Yeah, I think this change from Hylissang or from Jesses to Hylissang is actually bigger than we think it is. I think Hylissang was obviously a carry member on UL. He was obviously strong mechanically, but he always had this intention of running it down mid at some point. Obviously, to a lesser extent, probably in a more systematic environment, which Fnatic will provide. But I think that Jesses had qualities that we cannot measure by just watching the game, because he was a shot caller, he was a vocal member of the team, and I think he kept some of the members in check, and I don't think Hylissang can do that.
Well, that is very interesting. You had the opposite opinion when it came to Splyce. So what do you think to this? Is Fnatic going to win right now in the next couple of weeks, or is the change going to be bigger than what we had foreseen?
Well, I'm expecting Fnatic to currently be the best performing team in the LCS. And for me, I think that Hylissang, given the relationship and the respect that Rekkles has shown to him, shouldn't actually be that big of a factor. And I think he's willing to change. But that's a lot of optimism, and he's been on the Unicorns for a long time, so it's still up in the air. But I think it'll still be very much the same Fnatic.
If we realistically look at it, after last year, they should be a very good team. Their team manager, Xerxe, said, "I believe our coaching and management staff, in addition to our roster, it is really stacked this year, and we are confident that Fnatic will take back the throne in Europe." So he is most definitely confident. I think you have to be in a lineup like this. But if we look at the matchup as a whole, what are we expecting from Splyce versus Fnatic? Are we expecting a quick game from Fnatic? Are we expecting Splyce with those stars to want to show something here?
I think that Splyce is going to be on the background of things. Like, Fnatic will always have this early aggression coming in towards the top side. Like, Broxah and sOAZ have shown great synergy, especially last year, and especially towards the summer split. And I think Splyce, the way the players work, they're going to try to counter that aggression or answer it in some kind of way, like maybe with TPs or whatever it is, and just look to get leads elsewhere, or just let Fnatic come to them and just slow the game down and see what happens.
All right.
For me, expectations are Cat should dumpster Nisqy. I think there's such a big difference between the two mids that is where Fnatic will build up a lot of advantages. What I'm looking for is how Splyce will try to address this, and if Fnatic have addressed one of their big issues, which we saw at Worlds, is playing around their mid laner.
We'll see if that is the case. I believe the players are just about ready to get into the game. In just a second, a couple of other players I would like to highlight is kaSing. We have barely mentioned him, but there's a lot of eyes on him, and although he wasn't the best like last year per se, and he was stuck in Challenger a bit, some people have high expectations.
According to kaSing, he was investing in a new project. He wanted to see whether or not he could make it to the LCS with some star-studded rosters from his perspective. And unfortunately, things did not go the way in which he planned. He is quite the experienced player, initially coming in back in 2014 with the Super Hot Crew roster, which some old veterans may remember.
Yeah.
But back then, he was considered quite the playmaker. Thresh was one of his popular champions. And considering how consistent Kobbe has been, I think this bot lane has a lot of potential.
Well, we'll see if the Splyce boys can take down the favorites of Fnatic. Here are Quickshot and Deficio to get us into game.
Well, show me what you got, what you really, really got, Splyce. Thank you very much, Sjokz, and the rest of the analyst desk. Let's start with the roster rundown. On the blue side, we have the 5-time EU LCS champions starting their fight for the title as the Kings of Europe if they can win it. It's Fnatic, with sOAZ in the top lane, Broxah in the jungle, Caps in the mid lane, Rekkles the AD carry, Hylissang the support, and Coach Dylan Falco.
Only replacing Jesses, getting Hylissang as the upgrade here for them in the support role. They are playing against Splyce today, Trevor. And this is a brand new Splyce lineup. Everything is different except for Kobbe down in that bottom lane. But let's go through them. Odoamne top lane, Xerxe in the jungle, Nisqy mid lane, Kobbe of course, AD carry, kaSing back in the LCS support, and behind them, Peter Dunn, the coach. A lot of hype around this man. Again, won multiple titles in CB LoL, a lot of experience as a coach, and a person a lot of people have a lot of respect for, because not only is he smart about the game, but he also likes to innovate. He's creative in the way he wants the game to be played, and I think that's something we can see on Splyce.
It's very important to note that, of course, Peter Dunn has a lot of respect and a lot of people who know him behind the scenes, teams, coaches, players, etc. And now we need to see what he can do with the team on stage. I want to say something superficial very quickly. Xerxe looks hot.
Agree.
And I want to see what he can do with Odoamne. Odoamne, one of the quiet...
Does Odoamne look hot?
top performers, Odoamne has always looked hot.
There you go.
He's also one of the few pro players that regularly blows the shoutcasters kisses. There's a little.
Wow, I thought that
piece
was
of
gonna go way
information you
different.
didn't know.
Wow.
But I'm excited about the duo. You've got Odoamne, who has consistency locked down. He's been one of the best top laners for a long time.
Yeah.
But maybe not the flashiest, you know, maybe not the loudest. And maybe with Xerxe he can be.
I really want to see him be loud, be a carry on this team here, because
Do you want to see him raw?
I guess I want to see him roar. But like, Odoamne at Worlds 2016 played carries and destroyed everyone in the top lane. I want to see that again from this guy here, because right now on Splyce, the biggest question is, who will be the main carry on this team? There's a lot of players who wants to be the one, but Kobbe and Nisqy right now, I feel like, have not reached the level yet where we can say this guy is the star carry on this team that can win EU LCS.
Well, let's see what they have done in the off-season and what level Nisqy and Kobbe will bring to the table, along with both Fnatic and Splyce. Evelyn Malzahar Kalista taken off the table by Fnatic. Turn your attention to Splyce, Zoe, and Shen.
So once again, GP is actually getting banned now, not being picked a single time today in the EU LCS, but sOAZ, of course, famous GP player back in the day. He used it to destroy Huni as well when he was on Origin. sOAZ, that is. And it was one of these picks that's always kind of followed him ever since the rework.
Yes, and so has Shen has also followed him.
Hey, sOAZ and Odoamne agreed on Twitter to play Dogchamp versus Dogchamp up in top lane. Not allowed to kill each other, not allowed to get any jungle help either. Need to see if both teams respect that. First, it's the picks for them. Ornn is available.
Well, there's no ways they're going to respect that rule. And there's the Ryze once again. Ryze into Azir.
We've seen it before.
It is Deficio's favorite matchup. He loves it on 8.1.
No big surprises so far in this pick and ban phase. All three super standard picks. Sejuani there. Jarvan is still available on the other side. That is typically the go-to choice then.
Yes.
And here we go. Broxah locks that bad boy in. You know what? Tahm Kench is still available if people want to play him as support. It is good against things like Ryze and Sejuani. Hylissang, Tahm Kench played a lot in the past.
We'll see. It's going to get locked in sooner or later. I appreciate Caps trolling, locking in the Nasus, or hovering the Nasus rather.
Oh, that's one.
And it's going to be the pivot. So there's the Ornn, here's the Sej. Where do we go to next in terms of bans?
Well, first of all, we need this pick here from Splyce. Right now, we match mid lane, match jungle. Will they take the top lane choice for Odoamne, or will they grab either AD carry support and then ban away two champions from Fnatic here?
Do you have an option you prefer?
Not necessarily. I think picking top here is very safe, and that gives you a lot of flexibility in the next few bans. Odoamne will get that Gnar. We just had this matchup in the last game where, sadly for Prophet, who played the Gnar, he got shut down by two early roams from Schalke, and he never really got in the game. Can't happen for Odoamne.
I think I'm a little more excited about Odoamne's Gnar, and we'll see what he can do with it. We're going to find the answer to the ban phase 2 options. Kog'Maw taken away by Fnatic, targeting Kobbe. Camille taken away. That would have been a support Camille, I assume. It could be a support Ornn as well. I've seen that a few times this week
Exactly.
already.
Support Ornn is played, and Camille is a good choice against Gnar. Another one is Jace, but it's not really been something sOAZ has been showing us lately. If they're still thinking that this Ornn will go down to support as a flex choice, we'll see here with the last ban if they want to go for another top laner. No, it is that Tahm Kench we just talked about just before. I'm glad he's gone, finally.
So what's next?
I mean, Braum is still here.
Right, Ornn, top laner supports. Knowing Hylissang, knowing sOAZ, where do you think it will land?
I think they put it top right now. They either put Hylissang on Braum or a champion that can make some big plays. Alistar is available in this draft here.
He's been banned a whole bunch.
He's been banned a lot in Europe so far. Fnatic actually get rid of Braum on their side. Splyce right now have matched roles so far if it is mid versus mid and top is top with the Ornn versus Gnar, which is what we're expecting. Will then need to show most likely AD carry and then last pick support if they want to go that way, or you grab an Alistar here for kaSing and you say, you know what, we're fine with whatever you can pick against it.
Let's see what kaSing and the rest of Splyce feel. Of course, Kobbe, the only returning Splyce boy from the 2017 season. He will lock in Tristana. It gives kaSing the option to counterpick. And now Fnatic have to confirm for us where Ornn will be going.
Exactly, but also Ezreal is still available in this draft here. Such a contested pick everywhere else in the world. Rekkles can easily grab it for himself and take it down to that bot lane. Xayah and Rakan also
yeah, all the way
available
down.
if you want to play that. And that would be something that fits Hylissang and Rekkles, because I expect this duo to be so aggressive in the way they're playing.
Man, Xayah and Rakan rounds out the composition for Fnatic. I really like what I'm seeing on the Fnatic squad. So much mobility and options to engage. Let's see whether or not Fnatic will revert to that crazy style we loved so much. Last pick for Splyce.
Yeah, and this is why Splyce wanted to save support to see if Xayah Rakan got locked in. And I want to see if they have anything specific prepared against the Rakan. It is just a Taric. Obviously does work fairly well against all-in comps. There's one issue though with Taric against Rakan, in my opinion, is that Rakan engage is so quick and Taric ulti is so slow before it actually procs and saves you. So there is a window just when Rakan engages, but Taric can't really defend himself or defend his teammates in some of the later fights, and that's where Fnatic can quickly burst down the first target they see.
I also hate watching Cosmic Radiance used defensively. It's, in my mind, it's so much more tricky. I love it when it's used forward and aggressive, and hopefully Xerxe and Odo can set up some opportunities for kaSing to throw that down. What do you think, Deficio?
Yeah, I definitely feel like on Splyce's side, in order to get to the Azir in the late game fights, we are looking a lot at Xerxe with the Sejuani, but Azir can run cleanse, so that becomes a bit of an issue for the Sejuani. There is enough tools, I feel like, on Splyce's side to get to the back line, but they have to get there because Azir and Xayah will be so good at dealing with the front line of Splyce.
All right, what do you think about scaling? Both teams got some options.
There's a lot of scaling on both sides, but I feel like if you look on the Fnatic side here, especially with Xayah Rakan, that is a big lane to play around in the early game where you can be super aggressive, and if you win the bottom side, you unleash Hylissang to roam.
That's it, Hylissang, the upgraded member on the Fnatic squad. Let's see what he can
Let's see if it is an upgrade or not.
Just quoting my boy Deficio from the roster rundown. He's going to show up on stage, going up against a new old face in kaSing. Of course, kaSing running that support Taric. It's going to be a difficult lane with Tristana Taric.
Definitely true, but in general, looking at the drafts again, so many standard picks, so few big surprises. Just Xayah Rakan is being favored a bit here in Europe, and Rekkles and Hylissang, one of the lanes we want to look at when it comes to early laning, because towards the end of last split, when Rekkles stepped away from AD carry Kennen, he just started destroying people in the laning phase, taking early turrets down. You can do that with this duo here. It is highly favored in Europe. I just want to see it now. I want to see the synergy between Rekkles and Hylissang. They went to Korea together to boot camp before Christmas. They've had a lot of time to play together.
And we saw Rekkles walking around the Berlin scenery with a few choice quotes. The European throne is empty, he believes. The exact quote. Fnatic 5-time champions, but they haven't won a title in over 2 years.
And that's a lot in esports.
It is a very long time in esports. And talking about long times, Rekkles, the poster child for Fnatic, signed a 3-year deal. Heavily publicized, heavily talked about. Let's see whether or not he can lead this team to victory, of course.
And he's a bit of a bad boy now as well with those tattoos.
Ooh, I like it.
A little
I'm a
change
fan of
for him.
tattoos myself.
Hey,
Definitely approve of that.
I think they look pretty good as well, and I think it's smart to write your own name on your arm in case you do forget it. So
Is that
you
a problem that you have?
I have it sometimes, so I might need that tattoo down the arm just to remember how to spell it.
Let's see whether or not Rekkles does. And of course, over on the other side for Splyce, it's a complete rebuild. You know, new coach, Kobbe, the only returning player, the Danish best friend squad.
May they rest in peace.
After going to Worlds in 2016 summer,
The Pilter boys
did not have a great 2017. That's the old roster, been replaced by the new and upgraded.
Yeah, of course, all these players are still in the LCS, just all spread around different teams, but the new roster here, we should be excited because Splyce, they went all in and said, you know what, we want to try and get a roster here where it's a clear upgrade. We are okay with trying to chase some big names and have to obviously compete against a lot of other teams in terms of, you know, salaries and these numbers. And they went for players like Odoamne, they got him. Xerxe, again, one of the junglers you're always hyping up in Europe. And Kobbe, they kept him. I think that was a solid choice because he's always kind of been hovering around that
reliable.
top. Yeah, but he's always been near that top 3, if not in the top 3 of AD carries in Europe. So I think it was smart to keep him and see if you can make him even better.
And I mean, the question is, the tip of the spear, the people that we are looking at to carry Splyce is Odoamne and Xerxe. We'll see what they can do. There's some pressure here on the jungle. Of course, the roaring Romanian duo, side by side. When we were doing our prep and looking at the squad,
Oh, Hylissang.
just eats a dazzle to the face. But of course, it's these two that we feel should step up in the early stages of the split until we get to know the team more, until we see how they grow and develop. That could and should lead Splyce on the rep.
We just have to see if there is already good synergy between them. And if Splyce wants to play around topside where Odoamne is, on this Gnar here, he does have the range advantage, but trading against an Ornn, it sucks, it's horrible. I played Garen against Ornn the other day, I couldn't even touch him. And no, it's not because Garen is a garbage champion, it was just because Ornn is a little bit overpowered in the early game. Gets a shield for himself, does a ton of damage in return, easy CC with that pillar he can then charge into. It is not fun to lane against him.
It is really not. sOAZ is shoving Odoamne in. Got himself a small CS advantage and will try to harass Odo as best as he can. Actually, no, backs away instantly. 1, 2, 3, 7 of those little stopwatches in the inventories this game. Definitely turning to be one of the favorite secondary master trees. And again, Unsealed Spellbook on sOAZ's Ornn up in the top lane.
I mean, at this point, Inspiration is in almost every single rune book we see, either as the main tree or as the secondary tree, because free stuff is amazing, and also Spellbook is so fantastic. Reduce cooldown on your summoner spells, able to change them around. We have it on Nisqy in this game here. We have it, of course, on sOAZ up in top lane. Supports didn't go for it. No. Guardian on both sides, a bit more protection for the teammates.
And talking about protection versus offense, Hilly with Ignite versus the Exhaust for kaSing matches what he wants to do, right? Hilly wants to jump in there.
Now we also have to follow Broxah, because last split, Broxah loves to go top lane once in the early game. Level 3, level 4, gank once for sOAZ, get an early kill, and then just go bot lane for the rest of the game. He didn't want to go mid at all. He's top lane right now, but Odoamne is sitting under his turret. Will they just go for tower dive? sOAZ can tank it.
Where is Mega Gnar? That's the question. Starting to build up on the Odo side. He's going to get that Volcanic Rupture. Exhaust thrown down. That's the dash forward. That gets the flash. Odo sidesteps nearly everything. Hops forward. Boomerang gets the slow. The Rupture not going to pop. And Broxah with first blood.
Classic Fnatic. We just talked about it. Broxah will go top lane at least once in the early game. Get the first kill here for them. sOAZ actually did something very smart. He flashed forward to then charge into the wall here because he knew Odoamne would just flash the original CC that sOAZ was trying to land.
And of course the exhaust in sOAZ's back pocket. I didn't see if he started the game with teleport or exhaust, but either way, there we go. Just swapping over to TP. Started that one pre-prepared, pre-planned, and flawlessly executed.
It's good to see that nothing's changed here for Fnatic over the off-season. Same gank from Broxah. Let's see if he turns his attention to bottom side now, because they can start playing more and more aggressive, especially when they get that level 6.
A really nice buffer there from Kobbe. Manages to get out to safety with the rocket jump. And where is Broxah? So now clear out the jungle.
They can wait for level 6 bot lane if they
level
want
6,
to.
I mean, just dinged level 5. Got a small advantage, Fnatic duo, over the opposite numbers.
So, once again, Gnar in the laning phase, gets ganked, dies in mini Gnar. It's happened multiple games today in the EULCS. Junglers are good at punishing it. Xerxe is farming for level 6 before he really wants to help Odoamne, so Odoamne was left on his own. sOAZ, he's aggressive.
Call of the Forge God is hopped away from. Uses that one on cooldown. It's not the longest of cooldown, so it doesn't hurt you too much. And Broxah will pick up his red buff. We'll keep track of where he moves to next. Sej, very close to getting level 6, and that means Xerxe can sort of unlock his ability to look for kills, because there's setup in every lane.
There really is, but there's cleanse mid from Caps, as we highlighted before, so it is a little bit harder to go for him. And I want to talk about the mid lane now, because Nisqy is the biggest question mark on the Splyce lineup. He qualified last year to the EULCS with Fnatic Academy for the summer split, but then went straight over to North America and played instead. Got a handful of games under his belt, was really good in playoffs where it's kind of his peak, you know, as a pro player. Still very young, and now picked up by Splyce to see the potential in him, but he's struggling in this lane. This was a lane we just saw Nukeduck win on the side of Ryze and carry basically the game. Just went top lane, bot lane, shut down the Azir completely. Caps is 1v1 destroying Nisqy at the moment.
Caps plus 20 CS. Xerxe called in just to help, and of course because Nisqy is forced to run away, it means Broxah and Hilly are able to jump in and just steal away this blue buff.
And losing mid is such a huge problem in League of Legends, because if you don't have control mid lane, it gets really difficult to force plays on the side lanes. If your mid laner can't roam first, and you're going aggressive in the bot lane, well, the enemy mid lane is going to show up first.
Yeah.
And then he's just going to turn the gank around and he's going to kill you. So you have to play super passive, or you need to help your mid laner. And that forced sOAZ to show himself mid, so he's not applying pressure anywhere else despite hitting level 6.
And that's why Fnatic have got this phenomenal vision set up in the bottom right quadrant of your screen. Now, you talked about mid control, you talked about some question marks. As the vision highlighted that caps unlocked. Let's talk about caps a little bit. No longer a rookie. Played 19 games at Worlds last year and really sort of came into his own as the year went on. Phenomenal talent. The kid has definitely grown up.
You're not going to read the...
Since his performance last year.
Not going to read the line?
What? That Caps had summer 2017 stats? I know which landmines to avoid, my friend.
No longer Baby Faker. That one died. We're trying again with Teenage Faker. See if that one lands.
This was Deficio's idea. He put me up to it.
I thought it was funny.
He put me up to it. But the main thing is...
there was one person up there who
The
landed.
main thing is, he's not a rookie. And I want to see growth. When we were talking about this graphic and this player in particular, one of the things that we said is Caps has got that mechanics, he's got that individual ability, but now he needs to develop as a player on stage, with his mentality, with his knowledge, with his mindset. We kind of have to see the same growth arc that we saw from Perks.
Exactly.
And
Like,
see the development in everything else.
it's rare you get some of these talents where you can just see that he's mechanically better than so many other players in LCS. We saw it immediately when he joined Fnatic. It was why he was so hyped up. But normally these young players, again, they need experience, they need time, they need to be in a lot of different situations and figure out, okay, how do we handle this? They also need to, like, mentally, when they're practicing, learn what it means to be a pro player.
Yep.
Because sometimes it can be pretty easy to just, you know, enjoy playing video games and relax, but there goes so much into being a pro and constantly improving with your team. And we look at Caps to improve there, or not improve, but to show he's good enough, and sOAZ is winning top.
Yeah, what's he doing, Deficio?
He destroyed Odoamne, and he wasn't allowed to do that.
All of the Forge God. And Caps unlocks mid. All of that vision gets the first Infernal Drake. sOAZ just 1v1's Odo. Didn't quite see the build-up. But Hylissang's going to dash away to safety. Let the feathers fly. Will keep Rekkles alive. And Broxah is just waiting in the wings. Great defensive play. No summoners blown.
But man, sOAZ solo killing Odoamne. Yes, he got that first gank in his favor, but again, that is so huge for Fnatic. All Broxah had to do was be there once, and now he is bot lane with that level 6 Rakan, ready to try and win another lane. They're going all in.
Wow, there's that instantaneous engage. Root comes down into kaSing. He's knocked up, dunked down, locked in. Throws down the stopwatch for a few seconds, and kaSing escapes with his life. Ignite, the only summoner used by Fnatic.
Exactly, they can do this again once ult is ready for Hylissang. Same thing for Broxah here. Didn't have to use his flash either. Just staying in the bottom lane. Sadly for them, Splyce will be recalling.
Gotta back away. Plus 20 CS for Rekkles. Plus 20 CS for Caps. It is nearly plus 30 actually for Caps. It's a 1,500 gold lead. I said I could do math, and here I am messing it all up. But Fnatic, they're just outclassing Splyce right now.
Top lane, mid lane, for sure. Bot lane has been fairly even. The Rakan, it is somewhat expected they do well early on, but sOAZ lands the ulti onto Odoamne. The minion is already low.
Man, hit everything.
I mean, it's kind of, again, hard to analyze that kind of replay because he literally just hit every single skill shot onto the Gnar and killed him.
I mean, it's not hard to analyze because sOAZ is a man that is heavily criticized. He's an old player. He's been around forever. And he said he's going to play for forever. And as long as he keeps doing stuff like that, he's going to be able to play.
I mean, it's really good for Fnatic. They have what I now actually consider a more consistent sOAZ compared to how he maybe was a few years ago, where it was very up and down. I think last split, he had a lot of great games. He was almost never a liability for this team.
Yep.
Even when teams tried to shut him down, he actually managed to draw in a lot of pressure and not just die 500 times, as we have seen a few years ago. So I think sOAZ has actually gotten better. Now that he's even older and has been playing for so long, it's great to see how he kind of refound his motivation and did really well last year and good start this year.
Yeah, definitely one of the more outspoken players off the Rift. Not afraid to share his feelings, and we'll see how well sOAZ can play this split. Caps has got that Emperor's Divide available. There's the cleanse that Deficio's talk about. Emperor's Divide locks down Xerxe. He's forced to flash. Sand Soldiers come up. Broxah flash forward. Gets the knock up onto Xerxe. Teleport's being channeled over in the wings. Caps picks up the kill. Now Odo's the target. He's able to sidestep the knock up, and Hilly unable to lock down the CC. Fnatic find their third, and now they're setting up for the tower.
Oh, they want some more here. Big ulti from sOAZ.
Oh, Nisqy's gonna pull the Deficio escape. He manages to make
How's that my escape?
His life. And as Fnatic take down the first tower of the game, it's a 3,000 gold lead, but Kobbe and kaSing want to reply.
And that entire play was set up due to Caps winning this mid lane so hard. He just felt so confident walking into that enemy blue buff, trying to steal it. Knew he had the cleanse ready, and Broxah was behind him. So immediately as the engage happened from Splyce, well, Fnatic reacted. Bot lane moved in, TP came in, Broxah was already there, and Splyce lose another kill.
This was the setup. Really good play from Caps, so the cleanse and then the ulti.
Oh, but he knows, like, that even in a 2v2 situation, there's no way he loses. Nisqy at this point is very weak, so he's confident he just takes the fight. TP matched by sOAZ. Hylissang already left the bot lane before this play even started, and Fnatic just collapsed instantly. Splyce under a lot of pressure, have lost both solo lanes, got a lot of damage on the bot lane tower, but they're still playing against Xayah Rakan, so they're not winning bot lane either.
No, they're not. And Broxah is waiting just to the left of our screen. Caps has moved into the jungle to set up. I wonder if they can sniff anything. Just the blue buff steal. So Kobbe and kaSing trying to defend their towers.
But this kind of thing Amazing talked about on the Analyst is how with this Splyce lineup, when you have so many new members being put together, it is hard to expect them to just show up day one, week one, and be able to match a team that won almost every single game in the regular season last split and only replaced one player. Fnatic will, of course, have the advantage in terms of synergy, in terms of coordination.
Yeah.
And as we're also seeing in this game, at least in some of the lanes, they also have the individual advantage.
Well, sOAZ is looking for another one. Forge God is called, manages to find his target, lands everything, and sOAZ isn't going to chase further. But I want to zero in on one particular player on the Splyce roster. It is their support, kaSing, who's now going to be getting a lot of assistance from the rest of the Splyce guys. Look at the jungle. Here's the realm walk from Nisqy. This will become a 4-on-2 as the tower will fall. Xerxe not going to look for the ulti.
I really like this play here. Caps went top lane, a bit greedy, hoping he could get a free kill onto Odoamne. So it actually allowed Nisqy to leave that mid lane and go bot and apply some pressure with his team. They get that bot lane tower. Very important they find some gold on the map. So I like this play here. I don't think Caps had to leave mid and go top at all. Could have stayed to try and match Splyce.
That's a promising sign for Splyce to perform the cross map, see the opportunity and take it with no hesitation. It evens out the tower game, but they're still behind in gold.
Take what you can get at this point if you are Splyce when you are down and under pressure.
Do they lose bottom tower though?
I mean, eventually Rekkles will be able to just take it down because Fnatic can keep pushing the bottom lane. Hylissang is even jumping over.
Very aggressive. Hilly's got the ability to dash out, does so. Gets out of range of the stun, but just, again, it's forward, it's in your face. That's actually what we expected from Hilly.
And right now, Odoamne's TP is still on cooldown. sOAZ TP is ready in just a few seconds. The spellbook even giving him less cooldown on it, meaning that right now, Fnatic on bottom side can be 5 members very quickly. Splyce cannot, applying even more pressure on Splyce bottom side. Drake is being started, Splyce cannot contest it, have to give it up, and then the next objective can be this bot lane tower here for Fnatic.
See if they invest resources now or commit to it a little later. The answer will be later.
I mean, they can also go top and get that really low turret. They're kind of a lot of easy gold to pick up.
sOAZ is going to be happy to keep laning, just look for more solo kill opportunities. And Xerxe, unfortunately, has been a non-factor this game. The opportunities have either not been created or not been presented. And unfortunately, he's going to need to find a great ulti somewhere to try to turn the tides of one of these fights. Lockdown Caps or Rekkles. And hope to make up that gold deficit with an early kill.
Yeah, it is pretty tough when the first gank from Fnatic gives them a kill up top lane, so that sOAZ is now winning the lane basically on his own, and therefore Xerxe had to wait for level 6 and then had no lane to really gank other than bot lane, and he did go down there to secure the turret for his duo.
I want to talk about the bottom lane duo of Splyce. I was trying to get to it before that action. And kaSing's the guy I want to take a look at. Of course, played EUCS last year with Team RB, failed to qualify for the EU LCS. The kaSing effect something that was credited with his ability to turn around team performances. And look at this engage here in the mid lane. Caps gonna jump down into Nisqy. Not enough yet to find the kill, but those Sand Soldiers are whacking away. And kaSing, of course, is gonna need to pull out some of those magical performances because he has been around a very long time. Played at Worlds, debuted at Super Hot Crew 2014.
And he's an old school player,
Yes.
so if you're a newer viewer here, you might not know much about him, but as you said, the kaSing effect was kind of the big moment for him when he joined that H2K lineup in 2015 spring. They started suddenly going on a massive winning streak. That's when they went to Worlds that year, and he played extremely well. He was also on the Vitality lineup in spring 2016 that got 3rd place and was one of the most hyped rosters we had that year. So there's a lot of, you know, respect in the pro scene towards kaSing because he has done really well in the past, especially individually, being a big playmaker. We need to see if he's still able to do that. In this game, he's playing Taric, so we're not expecting the big flashy plays from him, but maybe later on.
And it's difficult when the game has sort of fallen apart everywhere else on the map, right?
Yeah.
You know, top was really struggling. Odo's been bullied. He's down 30 CS. He's given up solo kills to sOAZ. Nisqy has really been beaten up in that mid lane. I mean, he's down 50 CS.
Lost that turret long time ago as well.
20 minutes is fast approaching. And look, Fnatic were always going to be the favorites this game. You know, they had a lot in their favor, a lot of things that pointed towards them theoretically having an advantage, and it feels like they're using it, but I didn't quite expect the 1v1 dominance that I've seen this game.
Sure, I mean, especially top lane, that was a little bit surprising, but it was also due to Broxah's gank here. Caps taking down mid lane, I think was called by Vedius as well, that he really saw a big advantage here for Fnatic. In the end though for Splyce, again, it's a long season.
Yep.
So it's a long-term project from their side, and we just have to see how they now defend when we move towards the Baron. Because that's going to be what I want Fnatic will play around later on in the game. We need to see how Splyce is team fighting and just kind of judge them during this game.
Let's see what happens next. Defensive play. It's going to be what needs to happen. Rekkles and Hilly, they're going to push away any Splyce members thinking about defending. sOAZ and Rekkles will secure the 3rd and final outer turret. 5,000 gold is the lead. Broxah's going to look to move forward. Gets stunned up. Gets a decent flag and drag to safety. And now we've got a split map. Teleport to the mid lane by sOAZ.
And Hylissang is on the way. Rekkles as well. We might get a big fight here.
All of the Forge Guard was used in the bottom lane, so there's no gigantic engage. Flash is still available for Xerxe. Cataclysm not yet fired by Broxah.
I'm a symbol man. I call that a big fight.
As it was building up, the tension was there, the possibility was there, but nobody was able to find just the right pixel to engage.
Splyce not in a position to start fighting. No cleanse.
Alright, that's a lot of damage coming down. The quickness is available for Hylissang if he needs it, but look, Splyce,
they're teasing us.
They know they don't really want the big 5v5. Odo was all the way down, and if Fnatic to turn, the damage is very high.
But I also think Xerxe there was trying to get caps because that cleanse was still on cooldown for 10-15 seconds. Could have been a quick kill, maybe even more, and Splyce suddenly could get back in the game. Hylissang though, grabbed that ulti, and they don't really want to invest everything on the Rakan, so nothing happened for Splyce. It is a tough, tough situation to sit in. You've lost your outer turrets. The enemy Azir is on 2 items already. There's a Xayah Rakan that can force plays on you 24/7. You need to now almost play perfect defense with your defensive vision, not getting caught out. Otherwise, Fnatic gets an early Baron.
Exactly. And they've already got the ability to bully Splyce away. Fnatic.
They're doing it right now.
Yeah. The vision is great. Pushing all the way into Splyce's jungle. Setting themselves up for that next play. Take a look down the itemization. 2 item power spikes for the majority of the Fnatic squad. Splyce, they're just being pulled apart. There's too many things to defend. Too many avenues, and unfortunately for them, they've now lost their 4th tower, the inner mid.
Certainly means Azir can move even further forward with his own passive. He wants to build another turret later on to just keep that minion wave pushed in. At the moment, Infernal Drake should be the next objective for Fnatic, and then they can start looking back towards this Baron here. And they have good damage on it with Azir and Xayah. They have multiple tanks that can stand right in front of it.
It's a really good team composition from the Fnatic squad. It just feels like they can do so many things as the Infernal Drake is spawning. See down in your picture-in-picture, and Splyce like we said, they need flawless defense. As long as they've got inhibitor turrets to fall back to, there is some hope.
Right.
But it's falling further and further away.
And we need to see if they can find a pick with all the CC they have. Ryze, instant click ult, follow up with Xerxe's ult here with Sejuani, his own stun coming after, like Tarek. There's a lot of CC on Splyce's side, but they have to find that one member who's out of position to use it, because taking a full-on team fight at the moment is difficult against this Fnatic lineup.
Yep.
No one on Fnatic's side, though, is overextended.
Nisqy's going to solo take this top tower. No pressure, of course, because the dragon was taken shortly, fairly shortly ago. And that means that'll be the second of the game for Splyce. A little bit of extra gold to claw back, and we need to see now how Fnatic look to extend their advantage. The vision is timed out already in that top quadrant.
Fnatic also just waiting for Caps. He's sitting on like 2,600 gold.
Void Star?
I mean, yeah, if he wants it, that will be a fine buy for him.
Is that the win more button now? There
I
we
like
go.
it.
Void
I
Star
mean,
picked up.
There's a bunch of tanks on the other side, even though there's not insane amounts of MR being stacked on the 2 tanks just yet. It will be there very shortly, and there is Abyssal Mask on Nisqy's side, so great pickup from Caps. Big advantage, as we keep talking about 300 CS in 24 minutes to only 242 on the side of Nisqy.
Gonna have to check with the stats team how close to Perks' farming record that was. Perks just missed the all-time EU LCS farm record at 30 minutes by 10. And we'll see whether or not Caps can get close to that one. Broxah gets tagged by that satchel. Kobbe doesn't follow forward. You know how I love my useless stats, Deficio. So I'm going to keep a close eye. 319 at 24.5. You tell a story while I check with the stats team.
Story? A lot of pressure on me all of a sudden. Xerxe, Trevor, if you're still here, looking for a potential fight. We're kind of still waiting for the exact same thing. Fnatic are taking control of topside jungle. They want to force a play around the Baron where they can catch someone with Hylissang or just secure the Baron, while Splyce are just trying to defend for as long as possible. Huge issue when you have Ryze and you don't win early on, because you want to really use his advantage over the Azir. He does get outscaled towards the late game. So Nisqy, tough first game and not really been able to have much of an impact.
I agree. Very tough game, especially when Caps is poised to break the record. Deficio, at 30 minutes, Perks got 368 CS earlier with Ryze. The record was set by Xpeke at 378.
Oh, okay.
Now, while I'm talking about CS, Hylissang is the target. That's the first kill for Splyce. Rekkles will get shut down. An aggressive move. Peter and Splyce will be happy with that one.
That was a great play from Splyce here. They finally found someone from Fnatic that was overextending. The rest of Fnatic was not even close. And then Rekkles and Hylissang near that enemy tier 2 tower. Ulti from Nisqy into an engage from Xerxe. Good setup there. Near the Baron.
How risky is this, Deficio? There is still a teleport for sOAZ, Call of the Forge God, and Azir available.
Yeah, level 16 Azir is so strong at this point here. I think it's too risky. He's gonna get too much damage on you while you're near that Baron here. But great play. Fnatic, with a mistake that got punished. Rekkles and Hylissang overextending in that top side.
Oh, and even more importantly, Caps is not farming minions. 26 minutes, 24 seconds. He's at 3-4-3. Will he beat today's record or the all-time record?
Kobbe is stealing away the Raptor camp as well. No extra minions there for him. So look at this here. If you look at the minimap, sOAZ down bot lane at the moment. Azir sitting in mid lane. So there's not really any way for Fnatic to get in here fast enough and defend this bot lane. And Hylissang and Rekkles simply just play too aggressive without backup. They needed Caps to push mid first and move to the top lane before they could get close to that tower. Otherwise, this could happen.
That's another decisive call by Splyce. That realm walk.
That's what we want to see. This is a completely new team. A call like that is not easy to make when you're under this much pressure. It's a good defense so far from Splyce.
And of course, we're approaching 30 minutes. And 3,000 gold at 30 minutes is nearly insignificant. There is scaling on the side of Splyce. They've got Ryze, they've got Tristana, they've got Sejuani. Let's see whether or not they can find more of those picks, you know? Fnatic, they let themselves get blindsided, and they were punished very heavily for it.
And we might see one of the problems for Fnatic here, and a problem they probably didn't solve with their roster change, which is in terms of, okay, the correct way to close out a game and especially play around vision. At the moment, It is Splyce with a ton of defensive wards in the jungle. Fnatic who constantly have to walk in and try and kill them, then walk out, walk in again. If you make one mistake like the one we saw before, the entire map resets. You have to go back and buy all the wards again, replace them. And Splyce are finding ways to force Fnatic out every single time. And Fnatic are only sitting with 2 members who can buy control wards, so they're never getting enough vision denial to make sure the Splyce can't see anything.
Well, very, very good Feather Storm by Rekkles. He gets out safely. Fnatic continue to set up their vision. Where is caps? This minion wave, if he gets it all, will beat Perkz' record. 28 minutes, 20 seconds. 365. Xerxe wants to interrupt him. Don't take the CS Rekkles. 368. Caps has tied Perkz.
Oh, big engage!
The Cataclysm into the knockup. Can the kills for Caps break the CS record? Continues to chase forward. Call of the Forge God knocks Odoamne up into the air. Caps is looking for Nisqy. He slides and glides forward. Forced to flash away. Odo turns it back around. The Emperor's Divine is not going to be enough to save Caps' life. Splyce feel they can turn this around. Nisqy's looking for the re-engage. He's got the Realm Warp available.
He's too low. He's
but
too low.
there's no further follow-up.
That was such a good engage though from Fnatic to start that fight here. They finally forced Splyce out of the jungle, then found them in the mid lane. No flash on kaSing. He was the first target. In the end though, it was just a 2-for-1 trade. Mid lane turret is still alive. And Fnatic have not gotten that Baron that they're so desperately looking at.
Splyce held again. The defense that was not allowed to make big mistakes, despite getting caught out, managed to get away with it.
But again, this setup is great. Broxah with the flash engage, follow up from Hylissang. After, again, Splyce was stuck in the mid lane. Gone from their own jungle. Fnatic had the control for a moment, but they didn't get a big objective. Let's see if they can get another fight like this one. Caps went all in for Nisqy. Didn't get him and ended up dying for it.
Oh, and you know the biggest sacrifice, the biggest victim of that decision and that team fight, Deficio?
The CS.
The CS record at 30 minutes stands. X-Paco himself maintains it. However, all kudos to Caps here at 30 minutes. I think he dinged 372, 371, 372. I get confirmation from the stats team later. He at least is better than Perkz today.
That's the important one.
That's the important thing. Put that on Twitter. Put my name on it.
Look at Broxah once
Better
again
than
here.
Perkz today. Broxah's looking for the opportunity. Okay, flashes. 1, 2, 3 of them are down for Fnatic. So that's a little difficult. And Nisqy, though, is a potential target.
And a very big thing here. Nisqy did not go Hourglass, so he can't Hourglass and ult out if he gets engaged on. No flash for him. He's a very easy target for them. But that's a Baron who just disappeared.
We were so focused on the mid lane engage, I thought Hylissang was wasting the quickness. Instead,
He was baiting.
It was a bait. It was the best zoning quickness ever because sOAZ and Caps just soloed Baron.
Power of Azir right there. Destroying it in fight.
All right, let's take a look. Glacial Prism, that's great. Rekkles is already down. He was caught with his flash available. Now Fnatic are running for their lives. Xerxe's looking for the tag onto Hilly. Good damage on defense from Caps. Trying to kite and fight and survive. Odo flashes forward, rather hops. There's the Mega Gnar about to pop. The coaching staff in the background are happy. Splyce, they're turning this around.
Yeah, this game is so back and forth at the moment. Fnatic just took a Baron with 2 members, walked straight up mid lane, and then Splyce were like, okay, we still want to fight you. We don't care about that Baron buff. And they land the engage onto Rekkles. Xayah with ulti and flash got CC'd and died instantly.
Have Splyce got enough to turn this game around? The all-new roster with 1 player returning is still down 3,000 gold, but they're bringing the fight to Fnatic and punishing the small mistakes.
You should only get an engage like this one once in a game against the Xayah. Rekkles does not see the ulti in time, so he gets CC'd. He was in the front line, and he just dies. And now, of course, Splyce can win the fight. 4v5 here. Chase them down, get at least 1 more kill, remove another Baron buff. That was a great engage from Xerxe. No vision on that side. Again, I don't think you get that engage another time.
We talked about it 10 minutes ago. If Xerxe can insta-gib a Caps or a Rekkles, find that opportunity. But it's 32 minutes in. The goal difference, again, not super meaningful right now. Without finding that magical pick, is there enough team fight power in the Splyce tank to win?
It is difficult because Caps is so strong in this game. If they cannot get to one of the 2 carries instantly, I fear that there will be too much damage on the side of Fnatic that will eventually just take down a tank on the side of Splyce. That being said, Kobbe is on 4 items now with Tristana. sOAZ and Broxah will be the 2 guys he's hitting the most.
Yeah.
sOAZ right now taking a lot of damage.
Is indeed locked up by the clean
Okay.
kill Vision, and Splyce, they're able to get another kill. Fnatic is just getting messy. This is getting loose, and they're getting caught out. Splyce keep finding those kills.
Yeah, it took a while for Fnatic to secure the Baron, but they did manage to get it, which was a good play. Right after, we've had 2 plays in a row where Splyce catch Fnatic with their pants down.
Is this the first upset of the 2018 season here in EU LCS? Fan favorites Fnatic returning with the least number of changes. And we're going to see whether or not they can bounce back, because they still have the ability to win this game. They've just got to clean up the play.
sOAZ just walked in, applied some damage to Odoamne, who got Mega 9, just knocked him back, and sOAZ's been tanking the turret non-stop. Basically a free kill for Splyce here. Fnatic's Baron buff not been doing much for them. They're now hiding in this brush here. Old school EU classic. Ooh, blast cone over. Can they get here in time to stop the recalls?
No ulti available for Xerxe, so he doesn't have the long range engage. And that means Fnatic are able to escape. Okay, Deficio, 35 minutes is coming up. Baron will be up in a couple minutes, and Elder Dragon will be up soon. It is a potential 4-Dragon Elder.
And
Fnatic.
I'm not going to predict anything, because I feel like what's happened in this game is random things just suddenly meant that Fnatic lost fights where they shouldn't. And Splyce kept finding ways to stay in this game. The Xerxe engage was great onto Rekkles. That was just a great play from his side.
Yep.
On an AD carry that's overextended, that's a kill. The one with sOAZ up in the top lane, that was just very, very poor decision from sOAZ that instantly got punished by Splyce again. So at this point, I feel like it's anyone's game, even though I really like this really fed Azir on Fnatic's side.
Yeah, you need to enable the Azir. You need to play around it. Baron power play of minus 255 gold. Fnatic, they've got the inside track on the top half of the map. Splyce forced to use Realm Warp defensively, and Odoamne was not with the team. Now, there's no minions for Fnatic to play with, but sOAZ should be able to take that top inner turret. That's the 5th of the game. And when you consider they got 4 towers by, what, 17, 18 minutes? It's a long time to knock over that next inner turret.
And that's why we're just kind of waiting for either the big 5-on-5 team fight or another member that gets caught out. Let's see what happens here.
All right, Broxah's the member that's caught, but he's not out yet.
He's the guy who wants to catch it.
Here we go, noms it with that Warmog's arm, and you know, Deficio, you look at the Splyce roster, these are 5 players with names, with histories, with legacies in the scene. They were thrown together, and now they need to develop as a team, right? 5 individuals, they've come together. And let's see if one of the individuals makes a magic play. If one of these guys steps up and gets a great Gnar into a wall, or glacial prison, or a good stun from kaSing, or ultimate, that's how Splyce can turn this whole game on its head, but that's if they don't get caught out.
Yeah, Nisqy's topside at the moment. He's running down from base. sOAZ with TP ready. Fnatic getting that last outer turret down. The game has really slowed down a lot. It's just Fnatic trying to now play very safe. Stay together as a team. Only take the easy objectives like these outer turrets here.
Yep.
Elder Drake is up very soon. So is Baron. Again, that's where this game will be decided.
Okay, so 1 minute to Elder Drake. Sorry, 1 minute to Baron. Elder Drake's going to be probably another 2 or so minutes. I think that last Ocean was secured around 34. So let's see if Fnatic can get all of the buffs. Some defensive vision, very shallow, set up by Xerxe.
And in these fights here, we're really looking at Odoamne and Xerxe together. Xerxe lands the first engage, Odoamne with the follow-up with that Mega Gnar. And then after, Kobbe's positioning on Tristana. 4 items, QSS is ready. We've seen him already manage to actually land a lot of damage, and kaSing might get caught.
Forced to flash. That's a flash from Kobbe as well. That's going to prove pivotal in the coming Baron fights. Of course, this is the last game of day 1 here in the EU LCS, and let's see whether or not Fnatic can start their campaign with a win.
And still no hourglass or stopwatch here for Nisqy on his side to escape with that ulti in case it is a bad fight for Splyce.
No margin for error. 3 seconds to Baron. Fnatic have got control. They've got some deep vision as well.
And Splyce can't really see anything near the river, except for one ward in the Baron pit, sitting right there laughing at Fnatic, making sure that Splyce knows this Baron is not started yet. Now they find a little bit of room to move forward and get some vision down.
sOAZ down in the bottom lane, trying to push that wave as much as possible, but we're getting into this late game. And of course, no flash Kobbe, no flash kaSing. Keep your eyes on them for any potential CC.
And remember, Fnatic can two-man this Baron like we saw before with Caps. Xerxe looking for another engage, hoping to force a cleanse, but didn't happen.
No, not this time round. There wasn't enough distance. The Forge Guard is called and knocks kaSing up into the air. And Xerxe, a follow-on knockup from Hilly. That's the breakout kill for Fnatic. Cataclysm comes down into Xerxe. He gets chunked, killed, dunked by Rekkles. The flash over the wall. sOAZ continues to chase forward. Odo's running for his life, and Nisqy's trying to pull aggro.
Fnatic forced that flash away from kaSing earlier, and then they saw him out on the map and said, go for this guy. sOAZ ulti, engaged from Broxah, was enough to catch him, and they kill him.
Do Fnatic take 2 inhibs, then Baron, or go for the win? Let's find out. Inhib in the middle lane will get taken down by Rekkles. The tower in the bottom is now secured, as of course Youngbuck, the team director, I believe is the title, swapped over to Fnatic this year. And Fnatic, 2 inhibitors broken open, the map completely their control.
Splyce right now are pinging towards the Baron. Ulti coming in from Nisqy to get into the Baron pit. There is TP from Odoamne as well, but there's a ward from Fnatic, so they know this is happening. Broxah is already there.
Smite is available for Broxah.
Oh, Nisqy's getting
and Kobbe
caught now.
Are already running away. Teleport completed by sOAZ, and Nisqy's first death of the game comes at 40 minutes. The Forge God is called, and he will not escape Fnatic or Broxah's waiting hands.
Splyce hoping that all of Fnatic had recalled, then tried to rush down the Baron. Sadly for them, TP was available and Broxah was still out on the map. Stuff Splyce, they all go down, and now they've lost 2 inhibs, lost their mid laner, and Fnatic just got the Baron.
Whew, it was a little hairy in the mid game for Fnatic.
It took a while, there was some back and forth right there where Splyce actually defended pretty well.
But if you look at the highlight reel of the early game and the late game, it would look fantastic for Fnatic with Baron empowered minions. The top and final inhibitor will fall. This is League of Legends by the numbers. And the last 2 objectives stand before the Nexus. It is those turrets, and they've just got to conga line those minions into the lane. One last ultimate by sOAZ. That's going to knock up Xerxe into the air, and it is inevitable. Knockup lands, follow-up by the flag and drag. The towers fall, and Fnatic are padding those stats. They've got themselves a kill. Redemptions come down, it will not matter. And Fnatic are looking to kill them in the fountain before they take down Splyce to go 1-0.
Gotta ruin them fantasy points right there. Nisqy died a second time, but Fnatic, strong start to this game, especially Caps in the mid lane and sOAZ up in that top lane. Great performance from the solo laners, and looked a lot like that team that dominated in the regular season.
Yes.
With all the good things about Fnatic. But then also towards the late game, we got to see some issues closing out the game as Splyce found some good openings. And it was starting to look like a game where Splyce could actually come back.
A little bit of individual mistakes in the mid game, maybe some communication mistakes on the side of Fnatic.
Yeah, a mix, you know, also in terms of how to set up that Baron early on, or where could the enemy engage from. We had some moments where Rekkles was overextended both top lane and mid lane. Got punished, but it's early on in the split. Fnatic will be able to go back, look at all these issues, work on them for the next few weeks. They still kept this core together, and we got to see why in the early game, because they were dominating.
They really were. Great performance from sOAZ in the laning phase. Caps, great teenage year for him.
There he goes.
Showed up and just completely pulled apart Nisqy. Now, let's turn our attention to the Splyce squad, because when those opportunities were presented, Splyce were very quick to punish them. The tower in the bottom lane as a cross map for the top lane play. The team fight, the kills into team fight pressure. Xerxe finding that pick. You know, there was these real glimmers.
And that's a really good sign, because it shows that at least in terms of communication, most of it was on point. When they found that member that was overextended, they also clearly trusted in the calls, because everyone followed instantly.
Yep.
Nisqy TPs or Xerxe's engages. So there were some good things, but they were simply outclassed in the early game, which is a problem.
Yeah, it was. Of course, Xerxe's Sejuani not the strongest early game champion, as well as Odo just losing that 1v1. A lot to think about, and I
He
started...
lost the 1v2 at first.
Touche.
Let's be fair.
Look, the gank and then
Yeah.
the follow-up. But he got bullied a lot
He did.
For the preceding minutes, which was a difficult time for Splyce.
And that's why both teams are actually going to be really fun to follow the next few weeks. Like, how much can Splyce improve as a team? Was this just, you know, one single game where it fell apart in the mid lane and that will never happen again, and suddenly it's a completely different early game we see next time? Those are some of the questions we really want answered.
Well, Deficio, you'll be able to find them out tomorrow because it's a new year, it's a new
yeah,
format.
they play tomorrow.
Teams play twice. Of course, before we talk about that and before we start setting up for the interview and the post-game lobby, stick around for that. Just a few minutes, we will get the player of the game in the EU LCS post-game lobby. Remember, you're in charge of voting, so what that means, it stands between Caps, Broxah, and sOAZ. Go check out twitter.com/LOL esports, and you have to click on the vote. Don't tweet at us, don't use the hashtag, you have to actually go click on the vote. It's the only way
Make
people
it
register.
very simple.
It is, it is. You have to type, you don't even have to type. Keyboard's not
Just
used.
click.
Just click, that's all you gotta do. Bring it back again to, of course, best of ones. It creates some amazing moments because now we get to see the teams again tomorrow, but then we get to make amazing statements like the year of Nukeduck. And
Exactly.
today, Cap set the farm record and was better than Perks. And these are things that cannot change until tomorrow.
The best and the worst thing about BO1 is making big statements after one game.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's so entertaining.
It is so scary because, again,
Scary?
it's just, you watch this one game and you just want to be like, yeah, wow, Cap's destroyed. You know, he's going to be
Yes.
so fantastic in the mid lane based on this one game. But we obviously got to see a bit more.
It's interesting because, of course, there's 18 regular season games per team. Each team plays their opponents twice, double round robin, which actually means that at the end of the regular season, Fnatic will play less games than they did at the World Championship. They played 19 games from play-ins to that miracle run from 0-4 to quarterfinals, which I find just amazing to digest.
That was a roller coaster.
It was a roller coaster. Fnatic's a roller coaster. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. For now, though, Fnatic, they did get the win. They close out the day. Let's check in with Pyra, who's sitting ready with Rekkles.
Thank you very much, Quickshot and Rekkles. Starting off things right this season in 2018, finishing it up with a win. Now, it looked a little bit shaky a couple times you guys got caught, but overall very clean. What were the lessons you guys learned in your off-season to really take in and just kind of march through for victory in this first game?
So in the off-season, a lot of teams were making changes, and we were one of the few that didn't make many. So most people probably think that we would come in strong. But I feel like with Youngbuck coming in and Hylissang coming in, we've actually changed up a lot of things. And in some way, it actually feels like we've changed the team. So I was pretty scared going into today because I felt like we're just playing so differently now that maybe we'll be a bit uncomfortable when we're playing on stage and the stress was there and all that. But actually, it was pretty okay. We had some mistakes with the sideline priority. Like I think I died once or twice, overstaying on my side. But it's a different way of playing the game, and it's no longer just me running on my side, and then that's pretty much it. Like, we actually have other ideas in mind now. So it's just a lot of things have to go together, and today there were some that didn't. But at the same time, I think we saw a better Fnatic than from last year, because last year was just all about kills, but now it was much more about getting vision and slowly but surely taking the objectives as well.
Yeah, not all the pieces in the puzzle there, but a lot of them already coming into place. Now, I feel like, Rekkles, a lot of people will look at you being pretty much the hardened veteran on this team, aside from sOAZ, and think this guy's got to be the leader. This guy's got to be the one making the directions. Are you the in-game vocal leader for this team?
I think the shot calling is kind of split up. Like, people have different obligations inside of the game. So, for example, Broxah takes care of the early game. He makes the plan of which kind of route he wants to take in the jungle and where he wants to gank in the first or second clear. And then the rest of the game kind of depends on the situation, right? Like, every game is different. But for the majority, it's kind of up to whoever gets ahead. And I think in this case, we're winning mid really hard this game. So Caps was talking a lot and like constantly saying when he could move and when he couldn't, so that whenever he could move, we would be able to translate his pressure to the side lanes. And then we broke bot tier 1, and then we broke top tier 1. And then from there on out, it was kind of up to the individual. I think we did a pretty good job on talking like when we could move together and get the vision. But as I said before, like, we had some mini slip-ups, and I think I just made some mistakes on top. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, definitely not going to be perfect on day one, but it sounds like you guys are really firing pretty well ahead. Now, I do want to talk about your one roster change, because down in the bot lane, you're playing with a new support, Hylissang. He's been around in the LCS for a while, but how is he different from all the other supports you've played with in your time?
So Hylissang has actually been a guy that I've wanted to play with for a long time. I always thought that he was like one of the best playmaking supports out there. I always thought he was just able to step up and make the game-winning play in most cases. And I felt like that was something we were just lacking last year. Like, I don't want to put Xerxe on the stand either, because I actually think Xerxe played over any sort of expectation. I think he was a really great support, and like coming from another role, like he just swapped role and then still do such a great job. It was just inspiring to see, and I don't want to put any blame on him whatsoever, but I think Hylissang is just a very special player, and having that in your team is just something that you would rather do than having to play against it.
One more piece of the puzzle, too. Now, I want to go back to what you said about the roster shuffles, because everybody else really kind of blew up their roster. Some started from square one. Some just kind of made a lot of massive retoolings. Just overall, with so many shakeups and so much uncertainty, where do you think all the power lies right now in all the teams in EU, aside from yourself?
I think with each year that goes by, the top players tend to want to play with the top players. So I feel like we have gotten worse teams, but we've also gotten better. So it's kind of just more split up than before, perhaps. Like maybe now we have like 5 bottom teams and 5 top teams. But as you could see today, like it just didn't go as it should have. So maybe I'm wrong, I'm not sure. But it just felt like looking at the paper that we had better teams now, but also worse teams.
Yeah, kind of weird how that works out sometimes. All right, well, with all that said and done, one last question I got to ask you, Rekkles, because a lot of people are eyeballing that throne right now. What does Fnatic have to do to take it back after a long 2 years without having it?
So I think one of our biggest problems during these past 2 years was that we were very focused on the short-term success. Like we were very focused on winning these specific LCS games and feeling like kind of the pressure in a way of playing under Fnatic. And I think that's the wrong approach. I think League of Legends is a marathon, not a sprint. And we really need to just figure out how we can make the process better. And I'm very happy to see that Youngbuck is a great addition to that regard, because he just brings this whole like structure that G2 had, which we now can take over. And I just feel like in the long run, it's just going to be much better. But as you could maybe see today, we were not as explosive as perhaps before. And maybe we're making some mistakes that you haven't seen before. So in the short term, it's not going to be the same Fnatic as people expect. But I think in the long term, everyone will be really happy. And hopefully we can take back the throne, or maybe get to a finals. That would be my goal, at least, since I haven't been to one for 2 years.
Looking forward to see how you guys can do it. Thanks again for joining me, Rekkles, and congrats on your win.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, with that, we're wrapped up for day number 1. So let's send it over to Sjokz and crew for the post-game lobby, ULCS edition.
Welcome to our first EU LCS post-game lobby of the split, where I'm joined by Vedius, by Deficio, and by Amazing. Well, a closer look at today, because there's always so much to talk about when it comes to the first day of the split, even though we've only seen 1 game of each team. But I want to start with Fnatic up versus Splyce, because I feel like the tail end of the day was very exciting. Fnatic starting off quite confident, and then what happened, Vedius? Just break it down for us.
Well, I feel like that in the early game, Fnatic, as you rightly said, they seemed to have a lot of control, but when it came to the mid-game map control, that's really where they dropped the ball, and we saw some of the issues that we have seen in prior splits.
Yeah, and obviously some of the issues that might not be fixed by bringing on Hylissang, but maybe where it's more about Youngbuck, as Rekkles just talked about. It will take some time to start kind of ironing out some of those issues in the mid to late game. I think generally they get a little bit greedy. And then they overextend a little bit, and they're like, we can take this one fight.
And then it doesn't help if you have Hylissang.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't help when he comes in here. But Splyce was actually really good at punishing those moments when Fnatic were overextending, and that made this game pretty close towards the end.
And that's good, right? Because in the end, we were expecting quite a bit from both teams, so that it was a close game is positive. But on the other hand, not the best start then for Splyce. We had a bit of a conflicting opinion on the analyst desk beforehand. Vedius said what they'll build for short-term success, and I think they're gonna win the first games and win very fast. Amazing said, no, I think they're built for playoffs and are going to evolve. Turns out, Amazing is correct after
Based
one
on
game.
one game. Congratulations, that's why we hired you.
Arguably against one of the best teams at the beginning of the split.
But I'd like to welcome back to Amazing, just let you talk about Splyce and what you've seen from Splyce today. Was there just nothing to do versus this Fnatic?
I think there was a lot to do. I think they just didn't find the right answers, especially in the early game. They should have just actually expected the Broxah level 4 pressure and just this.
Called it.
Yeah, I mean, at some point it gets obvious, but I think for a new team, like they played in a way where I expected them to play. They played slow but controlled and punished mistakes when they happened. And I think if you're a new team that gets together, you start like that, and then you basically punish mistakes, and then at some point you create mistakes, and then at some point you actually force plays on your own. I think this transition is something we're going to see in the next couple of weeks.
Another big problem for them in this game that made it very hard to play was that Nisqy, in his first game in the LCS, I mean, it's one game only, nerves, all these kind of things, got destroyed. Like completely. Caps was like 30, 40 CS ahead early on in the game. The mid tower went down very quickly, and it makes it so difficult as a team to play the game when your mid laner loses that hard.
So that is then the question, was he not playing so well? What is certain is that Caps was playing very well on that Azir. He was also the player of the game, decided by the people on Twitter, and I think if it was up to us, we may have decided the same thing. And this was one of the big question marks going into this split, because as I said, you can't make excuses for them anymore, right? Last year we would say, oh, it's the first time around in EULCS for Caps. He overextends a bit too much. This is where we want to see the growth, Vedius. So did you see a bit of that today?
Well, I feel like that he did what I kind of expected him to do, which was destroy Nisqy in the middle lane. I felt like that he held his own. I think that right now he seems to be in a very good position independently. It's just about calming down a little bit. I think that when you have a good start, that confidence can overtake you a little bit. And there were multiple times in this game where you thought, okay, maybe you don't need to be diving underneath the tower without the support of your team. Maybe you don't need to be going for these hyper-aggressive plays when your team is this far ahead.
As said, we can't draw too many conclusions, but it is a fantastic start for Fnatic. And also at the beginning of the day, we started the split with a rematch of the summer finals between Misfits and G2. The new G2 lineup, they came out on top, and they're off to a great start on their hunt for the trophy. We're saying it very early, but when you are the reigning champion, I think that is also in order. Let's take a look at the picks and bans for people who may have missed that game. What was the pre-conclusion, and then how did it play out in the game?
Well, go on.
Sorry.
Let us know. Let us know.
Oh, a fight here.
Go. Tell us.
Okay, so I definitely saw like a lot of enthusiasm on Misfits side, I think. They thought they could win lanes. They clearly couldn't. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's true.
Basically for them, if you pick such a comp, like you have to be confident in your abilities, and you actually have to punish mistakes, and you actually have to just be clean on your plays. And I think the plays that they forced with the comp that they had were really iffy. They assumed that the enemy wouldn't be able to TP bottom, and they assumed that the enemy wouldn't be able to respond to the things that they did. So I think when you do that, you deserve to lose in the end. So.
Is that kind of a not Misfits thing to do, you know, with everything that we've learned from them last year?
See, I think this whole talk about Misfits last year and them not being focused on the early game kind of died during Worlds, where they were very focused on the early game, very focused on forcing plays around bot lane over and over, and that's kind of the style I think they were trying to play here. So they're trying to stick to the same way they played, playoffs and Worlds specifically. I just have this philosophy: if you want to tower dive in the early game and the enemy team can show up with 5 members, it's probably not a good idea to tower dive.
I think that's a good rule.
There are some steps beforehand you need to do so the enemy team will not show up with 5 members when you are tower diving, because G2 just reacted instantly and punished it.
They did, and everything went well for G2, but before it kind of exploded and snowballed a bit more, I did hear a couple of voices in the cast room saying, you know what, nothing looks different about G2. They're playing like the 2017 G2. They're playing quite slow. That's right. You guys did say that.
Yep.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, but what is it? What do you mean when you say that? And how do you think that's going to influence how this team is going to evolve?
For me, my expectations were Jankos typically is this early focused jungler that in the last split heavily played around the middle lane. So when you pair him up with someone like Perkz, you expect the kind of playstyle which is let's get mid lane as ahead as fast as possible. But what instead they did was play very much towards let's play around the overall map, which lanes can we look to punish, what objectives can we pick up, and what mistakes can we look to take advantage of. And it felt like that it wasn't just individual players relying on them to carry, it was a whole team effort, and they all worked well together.
Perkz, though.
Perkz was really good.
Really good.
But Jankos was good too,
Yeah,
and Wonder had a great performance. Perkz touched on this in the interview where he said the goal is to play slow in the start and work on synergy, communication, macro, all these kind of things, and then you can start speeding up the game later when you have all the basics under control. So it seems to be a very clear plan to go in and pick the tank comp, not be too over aggressive in this first game, and it worked out, and it's a great way to learn all the fundamentals as a team.
And he was also voted the player of the game for that one.
Yeah, definitely like the approach. Like I think a lot of teams come in. I mean, obviously, if you have the individual talent like G2 has, you can kind of take the slow approach. But some teams, even though they have this individual talent, they still try to like just speed it up in the early season and just try to rack up wins instead of trying to improve. And I think it's a really unhealthy approach. And I think Rekkles talked about it a bit, where he addressed it a bit, that you jump from game to game, but it's a marathon in the end, and you have to build up for the playoffs, especially if you're a talented roster like G2 is.
However, some teams come out of the gate absolutely swinging, and that was the case in Giants versus the Unicorns of Love. And I just want to take a minute to talk about this because obviously the Unicorns of Love lost. I'm not trying to make fun of that or anything. I'm honestly happy that this Giant roster of kind of players that have been around the block and have some rookies, or at least rookies for the EULCS, were able to put on such a performance. It's just inspiring to me.
Well, to me, it seemed like that they played a pretty standard, easy to play comp. Like it was pretty based around scaling. A lot of the laners were fine, and a lot of the conditions were on the enemy team to force these plays. And when Giants failed, when they didn't succumb to these early plays that UOL tried to force, they then played it very slow, they played it calm, and they seemed to have a good understanding of how to use a lead.
They did, and let's talk about Ruin on that Ornn. That was impressive, Deficio.
Big plays from this guy.
Big plays.
Funny enough, when I saw the old Giants lineup where we had all the current Vitality guys like Gilius and Trubex and these guys, like it was rarely about Ruin in the top lane. It was very much about the bottom side of the map. You know, play around mini Trubex. So Ruin never really stood out to me in Challenger. I always looked at him and said, all right, he looks okay, you know, he's just doing his job. This is a great way to start your little adventure at the EULCS, where you look more than just okay and you actually outplay 1v2 in the start and great ultis during the game. So great start for him, and he's important because it's one of those players who can bring something new to this team.
Well, yeah, amazing. We're looking at some players like Joko or like Steelback, as said, who've kind of been around the block and have not been so successful in recent memory. How much can a good player like Ruin starting the game off like that kind of put the fire under their, behinds to do better and kind of refine those things that they were so good at before?
I mean, the thing is that when you have other players picking up the slack for you, like especially in the early part of the season, you kind of speed up the process of actually getting back into the groove as a veteran player, because when you're already winning in the beginning, then you're just like, okay, this is already working. I can get into my groove now and just play my game, and we're still going to win. And you don't feel that pressure, and it's going to be still a slow process, but it actually works a lot easier for you.
Just something that Steelback said in the post-game interview. He said, well, I'm quite happy that we could transfer this level that we had in scrims on stage, because that is a problem for a lot of teams. And he also said, I'm happy that we got this win and that they could transfer the lead into a win, because he said that has been a problem with teams that he's played with in the past. And that's definitely something that I can see was a thing for him in the past.
Yeah, and this was only one game, but there were still a lot of good signs, like actually their decision-making as a team, because a lot of it was not individually just outplaying Unicorns of Love. They made way better calls in terms of when to lane swap and go for a turret, when to how to react to Unicorns' play, and as he highlighted, how to close out the game. And it's rare a team that we would look at and say these guys are going to be down the bottom can actually cleanly close out games. So that was really good to see, and it also shows it's really hard to predict based on just the rosters in the preseason who's actually going to beat each other.
My only caveat to that would be the composition that UOL drafted. I think it did pigeonhole them into relying on getting an early lead, and once they didn't get it, they were constantly playing from behind, and there were a number of occasions where they found picks, and with a better comp and perhaps a stronger team, they could have better punished those picks and turned them into something else. So I'm still a little skeptical of Giants. I like.
I mean, it's one game. We're not
It's promising things, but I'm looking for it. It excites me to see what else they can do moving forward, because as Deficio says, there are promising things from this team.
Yeah, and Unicorns of Love, obviously, it was a false start for them, and I think that's also how they're going to have to look at it and then reset for tomorrow. The next game I want to look at is Schalke versus Roccat. A bit of a false start for Schalke as well. They played without their AD carry upset due to a medical emergency, but they still managed to take the win after an impressive performance by Boris.
Roccat cannot play against teams with subs. Like, it just goes horribly wrong for them.
Yeah.
They actually tried to punish the sub down in the bot lane.
The last team that started the split with subs won the split.
Is that how it works now?
Just saying.
Ooh. Hey, I
no.
did predict Schalke to be fighting for first place, so
There we
I guess
go.
it fits.
So obviously this is a false start. It's really crappy. Vander had to step into the AD carry role. They weren't prepared for this at all, but that was, by the way, a really nice play. But I want to put this in the context of what that then means for Schalke and for their mentality, because I can assume that they were a bit beat down before, right? And the incidents of the day. But this has to give you so much confidence because your other guys, Nukeduck played out of his mind, Vedius played out of his mind. It's got to give you hope.
It should give
Not
you
just
hope.
hope.
But then again, Rocket just didn't do anything,
Yeah.
you know? So for me,
I mean, they
obviously-
died a lot.
Yeah, they died. They gifted gold, that's for sure. No, it's like when you're up and coming talent that has obviously practiced with you for a long time now, like they've been boot camping and everything like that, goes out and then suddenly you have to come in with an emergency support and Thunder playing AD, and then you not just win laning phase, but you also win mid to late game and don't even lose out on a mechanical level.
Or it means your macro is so incredibly on point already.
Probably, but I don't think that macro made Rocket lose early so hard. So that's just it.
I'm just happy to see that there was a lot of focus on strategy and not just Schalke like 1v1 killing Rocket over and over, because a lot of it was built around mid lane pressure. So a priority for Nukeduck to roam first, they timed it correctly with the early dives on top side, and then down bot lane later. Those are just good early plays from Schalke that I could imagine they've been practicing a lot in scrims, and just seeing that translate to stage in game one is a really good thing.
And when it really mattered, even when Schalke were 2 members down and it looked like there was going to be a Baron, Vander, the hero, stepped up and had a fantastic
Discount
performance.
forgiven.
Discount forgiven, yeah.
Same here.
He's the true next coming of Sven.
He's not giving away the
He's
carry
like,
spot.
what next coming of Sven, Hansama, what Rekkles? No.
It's Vander.
It's time for Vander.
Carry.
Yeah, well, fantastic stuff. And regardless of how it happened, with that win, Schalke have secured themselves an early lead in the standings, along with G2,
Yay,
along with
one
Giants
game.
and Fnatic, and also along with Vitality. Now, I know it's only 1-0, but there is the question of morale and getting off to a great start. And then, obviously, on the other side of the coin, not looking too deep in losing on one game.
It's quite interesting because I had this conversation with Sheepy, and he was talking very much about how usually at the very start of the split, if you lose a couple of games, it's not the end of the world, because if you work with the team and everyone understands our process is growth and our goal is to be better at the end of the split, then people understand and they don't take the losses too hard. But the other side of the coin is when you have a lot of young players joining a new roster, having that confidence boost of getting that win can do a huge amount for your mentality, but it can also have a negative effect on the sense of maybe I'm not good enough to compete at this level.
Just before we go over to the next topic, we're hearing all this talk from every interview and also from us saying, hey, we're looking at playoffs, we're looking at long-time growth and evolving. So who is then the best team after today?
So based on the
What you've
preseason
seen,
and today, or just the games today?
The games.
I mean,
If I had only today's games to base off,
Yes.
I would say that right now
You do.
G2 are the strongest
Yep.
team in the league right now.
yeah. That's pretty. I mean, Schalke. I'll say Schalke as well is up there.
I actually think Fnatic.
Including their sub.
Based on just
Fnatic?
today?
For me, the way that Fnatic played was just like, you heard Rekkles talk about it too, that their macro focus was way better than I expected it to be. That they actually won, even though they told us something that we already know, that they sometimes do. But I felt like the approach to vision is something that I didn't see from Broxah especially, and the approach to actually finding engages is something I didn't see from Broxah either. And I think this evolution in terms of what they do, especially on Caps and Broxah, is something that bodes well for the future. So I think after today, I would actually expect them to beat other teams.
I was a little bit disappointed though with the first moments where they were trying to set up for Baron. I know you talk about Broxah's vision being better. I assume you mean a lot about the early game there specifically, because I think around Baron, they were fairly sloppy in setting that up, and they were suddenly being like, it looked like they just said, okay, this setup is not really working. Let's just go back to pushing lanes really aggressively. And that's when Rekkles and Hylissang got caught the first time. And that suddenly slowed down the game a little bit for them. Splyce got a full reset in terms of vision in their own jungle. And it looked much harder for Fnatic to close out this game than I thought it would be just from watching the early game.
Yeah.
Early parts of the season, that can happen. I definitely agree that Fnatic showed really good things early on. But I didn't feel like they looked much better macro-wise than last split,
Well,
just
good
based on
point.
this game, one
Good
game.
points. It's obviously a bit of a silly question as we've only seen one game from each team.
I say Vitality instead.
Yes, Vitality. I was gonna say, we didn't talk about them much yet, but Vitality had a fantastic start. They beat H2K, and we also had our eye on all the rookies today. And in that match, we want to highlight the Italian stallion. Xayah, fantastic job. And he was also very confident in his interview after the win against H2K. Let's take a look.
9-0-6 in your first game on the EU LCS stage. How does that feel?
Well, I couldn't ask for a better debut for me. Like, I went on a comfort champion, and I rotated well in the early game, and we just destroyed them early game.
I love how he pauses like 1 second and we just destroyed them early game. But it's fantastic to see because we had our eye on all these rookies and a lot of people are talking about Upset who unfortunately didn't see many true packs. But Xayah, man, fantastic start and for the whole of Vitality. So for someone who may have missed the match, how can we TLDR what Vitality did today, Vedius, against H2K?
Good early game. Is a TLDR.
What did God Gilius do?
God Gilius actually invested a lot of time towards the top side, and Xayah just largely helped. The focus was, let's try and get Kobbe ahead, let's try and get him snowballing on the Jace, put him in a good situation, and also shut down Smitty J, who, after hearing Veteran, it does sound like he's a part of the core member of this team in terms of, that he's one of the leaders and so on that they rely on. So by taking him out, I felt like Vitality seemed to have H2K's number.
Yeah, that kind of answered the question that I had about them, that, like, obviously the dynamic of the roster has changed. Like, Rune was someone that you can just, like,
leave alone.
Just leave alone and just hope that he doesn't die, and he didn't. And Kobbe is someone that demands a lot of resources. So did Mini Tupacs in the challenges especially. So for me to answer that, can the bottom lane survive on their own instead of the top lane? Yes, they can. And can they play towards the top side? Yes, they can. So I'm actually fairly impressed with their debut.
Yeah, and I was just really happy to see how aggressive they were playing, especially Xayah in that mid lane, because the moment he got an advantage after roaming top lane, like he just went all in at every single opportunity. And seeing that from a player who is a rookie, first game on this stage here in front of a crowd as well, that is just fantastic and just what I wanted from this Vitality team, because they seem very confident, they talk a lot, they really want to show they are the best, and I was just afraid they would come in and they would be very nervous. But instead, they just went all in.
They are so vocal too. If anyone has the opportunity to come to the studio, they will hear these guys laughing, yelling, cheering. These guys have so much energy, and it just makes them the most exciting team since Misfits.
Set of rookies.
Set of rookies. The most exciting set of rookies since Misfits.
Well, as maybe an end note to that, Amazing did say, well, the real question is not...
What did he say?
He said, well, the real question... You were there when he said it, by the way.
I don't really listen.
The real question is not what... Well, they know they can win, and they've won. And of course, everything goes well. But, we'll have to see if it goes a bit more difficult. But it doesn't look like it's going to get more difficult right now.
My only concern for Vitality right now is they seem like an emotional team. If things start to go wrong, can they maintain their composure and bring things back, right?
But we don't want to be party poopers, They're doing good.
They're the best in the world.
Yeah. Will Vitality win Worlds? We don't know, but we will know what they will do tomorrow. Let's take a look at the schedule. We will be back tomorrow with 5 new games, kicking off with Giants versus Vitality. Vitality looking to keep that momentum after today, and we're going to start at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Let's take a look. So Giants versus Vitality, the grudge match also. Well, it's not grudge, but it's kind of...
Ruin versus his old team, trying to prove this is what happens if you invest in me.
And on that note, for the rest of it, Splyce UOL could be very close. H2K Fnatic could be a very tough one for H2K. After what we saw today, what are you guys looking at?
I mean, that Fnatic H2K game, H2K struggled so much in the early game against Vitality. Fnatic should be even better than Vitality playing early on in the game. So this H2K lineup, and especially Kadrill in the mid lane, needs to show a much better early game performance.
That's what we want to see tomorrow. Is there anything else specific that you guys want to see from any of the teams tomorrow, Amazing?
I want to see Misfits recover. Because after today, they didn't seem that strong. They couldn't really find answers in neither the pick ban nor the actual game. So I expect them to revamp the pick and ban and think about it again, because they also had a talk on stage about it. And I'm definitely sure they wouldn't lose to a Boris Schalke, but I think they will definitely have to just step up the play and see what happens out of it.
You don't think Vander AD carry can do it? No, Finn.
I believe.
I just want to challenge this idea that Misfits played bad. To me, I felt like that they had a clear strategy going in, and they played towards the strategy that they wanted to do. Their execution was poor, which I think is a team synergy thing, which in the past we've seen for Misfits can take a little while to build. But overall, I still think there are a lot of good things from the side of Misfits. And for me, assuming that if Upset comes back, I think that the match will be a little closer. But to me, Misfits are the favorites in this head-to-head.
Yeah, that's a great point. Obviously, we wish Upset the best, and we hope he's back to play in that fantastic game. Well, that'll do it for us for today. Obviously, that is tomorrow. And after our broadcast, stick around for the NALCS Academy, which starts with a clash between Team Liquid Academy and TSM Academy. And if you missed any of today's action here in Berlin, all of the EULCS will be rebroadcast following the competition in North America. So a lot of league to watch for you guys. But for now, though, that's it from our studio. It's time to call it out. Thank you guys very much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for more battles in the EULCS Spring Split. Until then, have a great night.
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
High five. High five, man.
Leave him hanging.
High five.
Just get tunned him immediately. And take it down. No, he's going to get the escape. Oh, my God. That far is right there. They're moving in and gets him. Sjokz is a fade. Almost nothing that they can do. Oh, my God. The follow-up. The engage. They've already got the Barons to clean up for G2. And it's going to be their first win in the spring season. The turnaround, though. Sheriff's ready to keep this one going. You can hear the laughter coming out. Vitality are having a field day with H2K. Gillies is still making his way out. Jizuki is unstoppable in the back line. Triple for Jizuki. Will he get the quadra kill? Looks like Mini Trupax wants to bring it home. Nope. 1 for 5 in their favor. Their first game on the big stage. No. Yes. Hook shot unstoppable. Outplay. Oh, God, that's disgusting. Steelback untouched on the backside. Doing what damage he can. Ulti is going to connect. Steelback deleting Samix. Totoro now on the run, but Steelback has so much range. The flash forward, no hesitation from the AD carry. Double kill comes in. In the end, the Steelback runs. Will he go down? No, he won't. Nexus falls. Giants take the win.
Schalke, call on the Forge God into a 3-man knocker. Bled forced to flash for his life. Nukeduck keeps spamming out the overload, locking down him. Quickly flashes over the wall to safety. The true shot for Ryze. Boris sidesteps with the mechanics, and Schalke win the fight. Hammering away. The Devour bites a few seconds longer as Boris has blocked so much damage. Vander is untouched. He shoots up the arrow.
Vander, the AD carry, God!
At the 30-minute mark, the last kill of the game as the Nexus falls and Schalke null fear take down Rockets.
Big engage.
The Cataclysm into the knocker. Can the kills for Caps break the CS record? And Xerxe, a follow-up knocker from Hilly. That's the breakout kill for Fnatic. Cataclysm comes down into Xerxe. He gets chunked, killed, dunked by Rekkles. Redemptions come down. It will not matter. And Fnatic are looking to kill them with a photon. But